Good morning, Hojo staff, students, and families. Yaateyapina, ready to start our day, so please stand. Place your right hand on your hat. If you have a hat or a hood, take it off. Place your right hand over your heart. Voices are off, bodies are still, and we recite the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April 29th, and we are ready to start our day with some music. I'm sorry this is probably getting posted a little bit later than usual today. I had to redo the whole video because my phone that I have to do the video on ran out of storage, and I had to sort that problem out. So we have a little bit of a later start today, so I apologize for that. I'm going to play some music from Mrs. Nev that she has chosen for our selection for the week, and I'd like for you to tell me what we are listening to, the composer and the title of the piece. And it's buffering and spinning. Okay, here we go. Okay, friends, what is the name of the ballet? It's also the name of a very famous play written by Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet, that's right. And what's the name of the selection within the ballet that we are listening to? Dance of the Knights, that's right. And Mrs. Neff has that posted. You can see them dancing to the ballet. It's the only ballet that we've actually had so far in our list of classical music. And the name of the composer? Sergei Prokofiev. That's right. Nice job, everybody. So now I'm going to play a selection from our music that we have been listening to since the beginning of school this year. And I'm going to play it from the middle, so listen closely to see if you can identify it. Okay, friends, what are we listening to? Did you recognize it from the middle? Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, 12 Variations of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star by Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, that's right. Okay, friends, let's take a look at the art for the week that we have selected. So I'm going to zoom in here closer so you can take a look at that. You can look at the picture and probably remember what the title is. Do you recall? Children Playing at the Beach by Mary Cassatt. That's right. And now I have a poem that will complement that painting. So complement, meaning that it kind of goes along with it, adds to it. It's called Maggie and Millie and Molly and May by E.E. Cummings. And if you listen to this poem, it's about these four, I guess, young girls, Maggie and Millie and Molly and May, who go down to the beach, and they have different experiences. Each of them go to the same place, and they have very different experiences while they are at the beach. So this is the poem. Maggie and Millie and Molly and May went down to the beach to play one day, and Maggie discovered a shell that sang so sweetly she couldn't remember her troubles, and Millie befriended a stranded star whose rays 5 languid fingers were, and Molly was chased by a horrible thing which raced sideways while blowing bubbles, and May came home with a smooth round stone as small as a world and as large as a loan. For whatever we lost, like a you or a me, it's always ourselves we find in the sea. This is an interesting poem, talking about these 4 girls who go down to the beach and have very different experiences. One finds a shell. If you've ever been to the beach, you can pick up a shell sometimes and put it up to your ear, and you can hear the sounds. It sounds like the ocean, the echoing sounds of putting something cupped up to your ear. And it's a soothing sound, and lots of people like to do that when they go to the beach. And then Millie and Molly find some creatures there, and Molly was chased by one. What races sideways on a beach? Crab? Yeah, so she was chased by a horrible thing, a crab. And then May came home with a smooth round stone as small as a world and as large as a loan. That is a very interesting sentence or stanza to this poem, because you don't think of a world being small. A world is huge. If somebody would say, how big is a world? Sometimes people use that when they want to tell something that's the largest that they can think of. It's the biggest in the world, right? The world is huge. And then the poet is saying, this little stone is as small as the world and as large as a loan. As large as a loan. A loan isn't something that we normally say has a size, but it's interesting how poets can make us think of things in different ways. Something, a tiny little stone, as large as a world, or as small as a world and as large as a loan. Very interesting. And then the last stanza says, for whatever we lost, like a you or a me, it's always ourselves we find in the sea. So we all have different experiences in our lives. 2 people can go to the beach and have a very different experience. Right? Someone might think it's beautiful, and somebody might think, I don't want to be chased by crabs. So they had very different experiences, and that happens with a lot of things. You could read a book, or you could watch a movie with somebody and have very different experiences from that, from what you heard or seen, because we all have different experiences in life, and it makes us see things in different ways. And so a job of a poet is to help us think about those things and think of the ways that we may be the same or different. And also E.E. Cummings, he is a very famous poet, and most of his poetry doesn't have anything capitalized, or it has different words capitalized than you would think need to be capitalized. And there are lack of punctuation, and so all of those things, when you read the poem, help you determine a meaning behind it. And also he uses that poetic license, we call it, when you don't use standard common practices of punctuation or capitalization, those sorts of things, or we use words in different ways. It's called poetic license. So if you don't like the structure of grammar and punctuation and that sort of thing, you might use poetic license. You may be a poet. So now we're going to talk about the Gettysburg Address, because we've been talking about that for a few days. And we've learned the preamble to the Constitution. We've learned the Declaration of Independence. And so Declaration of Independence being ratified on July 4, 1776, that's right. And this address, another word for address, is speech given by Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, right, in the town of Gettysburg, which was a battlefield in which war? The Civil War, which was taking place 7 years, or this speech was taking place 7 years after the Declaration of Independence was ratified. Now 4 we said, remember what's a score? 20 years, and so 4 be 80 years. So plus 7, 87 years later. 87 years is not a long time from the time of the Declaration of Independence to our nation being at a place where it may not have continued. It may have been, it may have, as Lincoln says in this address, it may have perished at this point. It may have died, it may have gone away. And this experiment that we had of saying, can men self-govern? We don't need a king. We can be free. We can declare that all people have certain rights endowed by our Creator. And then 87 years later, or even less, because this is the middle of the Civil War, you find that we're struggling. We don't have domestic tranquility. Remember, that's what the point of the Constitution was, to ensure that we have domestic tranquility, and we didn't. We had a terrible civil war that we had to fight. So Lincoln has come to dedicate a piece of this land, and he says, we can't dedicate this land. The people who have died here have already done that. They have given their last full measure of devotion, he says, their ultimate sacrifice, their entire life. What more can you give? They've left their lives on this battlefield, and because of that, this battlefield has become a holy place. We can't do anything more, he says. Our words cannot make that any more special than it already is. But we can be dedicated. We here can be dedicated to carry on, so that their death wasn't in vain, that they didn't die for nothing, that there was a purpose behind that, and we can save our country. And so we've got to the point here, we have this last line. I'm going to read it to you, then we'll do it together, and then we'll do the whole thing. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Okay, so I'll read that last section, and then in between you repeat after me, and then we'll do the whole thing together. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that those dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. All right, friends, let's do the whole thing together. fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived or so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Those are very powerful words that are really helpful for us to have in our minds for our whole lives, to remember what our duties are as citizens of this great country. Okay, friends, no birthdays today, but we do have two new students. Two new students have joined us. Caden and Adriana are in Mr. Williams' class now. Can we say welcome? Well, Caden and Adriana, I hope you heard that. They were very loud when they welcomed friends, so we're glad to have you here with us. Next thing we can talk about is the readathon. Make sure you're posting your minutes so you can earn your prizes. You can earn your science or art kit. You can earn your t-shirt. You can earn a tablet. So make sure you're entering those minutes on the readathon. So let's talk about those students who have been doing an excellent job posting their minutes for the readathon. In Miss Rice's class, Jacob, nice job. Miss Ferguson's class, Macy. You've been on a roll lately, Macy. Miss Arnold's class, Ivy, you too. You've been working hard, Ivy. Thank you. Miss Marshall's class, Amelia and Alex, nice job. In Miss No's class, Andrea, I haven't said your name yet. Nice job. Mr. Berg's class, Zoe's been working really hard. Nice job. Mr. Williams had 3 stars. Addie, Mason, and Ephraim. Nice job. Miss Essex, Joaquin, continues to do well, and Emily, thank you for posting your minutes. In Miss Wilson's class, Jaden did an excellent job. These are the students who posted the most minutes yesterday on the readathon. So remember to continue to post your minutes. If you need more books, come to the school, pick them up. Go to LibriVox.org. You can download those books and books on tape. Read to a brother or sister. Have your parents read to you. All of that counts. Log those minutes into the readathon. Remember to stay safe, stay home for now, and soon we'll be back together having school the usual way. So in the meantime, let's do our student pledge. I will do the good, I will learn the true, and I will love the beautiful. And I hope